She just reeks. Her whole body is in pain.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live edition of From the Chair Where Inclusion Matters. We'll be back in just a couple minutes to discuss the evening show. Welcome to Pat and, oh yeah, the host who thinks he's the most. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes to start the show. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, we bring in breaking news and some top stories from across the wrestling world. Again, we'll be with you in just a minute or so. We have a great show lined up for you. Maybe we'll actually see Nathan's face. If not, we'll just lift at the top of his beautiful head. All that and a whole lot more. And we'll go live in 30 seconds. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to From the Chair Where Inclusion Matters. This evening, we're going to talk about all of our late-breaking interviews and some top wrestling news from across the wrestling world. Tonight, I'd like to introduce our co-host, Pat, who you can actually see visibly, and the top of the bald head of our host, who thinks of the most, who really can't really think that he's the most because he's not the hardest working man on this podcast, as he knows it, because I am. Nathan.
How you doing, everybody? And sorry about only seeing, well, now the wall behind me. I'm working with the new tablet and haven't gotten a stand for it yet. So I'm trying to learn how to position it without sending you guys away. And of course, you have to be the hardest working man on the podcast. I have to make you feel important somehow. I tried to send you a Lunchable the other day, but you didn't want to take it. What, you think you're too good for my food?
I know where you live, Nos. Of course I'm too good for your food.
That's true. The food here isn't that great. That's why I was going to send you something that I'm better than what I had.
So anyways, let's get into our first topic. Maybe Nathan doesn't know anything about this or not, but there is a New Japan Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion.
Somebody beat Okada?
Somebody beat Okada. Yes, they did.
Who beat Okada?
Well, I just lost it, but
Then again,
When
you
I-
lost it a long time ago.
when I find it, I will be sure to let all the fans know and make a clueless Nathan Noss even more clueless.
To be fair, I was being the hardest working man on this podcast today, and I was doing research all day on our upcoming guests. That's why I didn't know about the news from New Japan.
Yeah. That's what she said.
Well, she hasn't been saying it to me lately.
Again, that's what I told you when you invite Rosie and her sisters over. You know, that's what she said.
I don't call her Rosie. I call her Philomena.
Well, then let's move on to the next topic. Drew McIntyre is willing to sit out the remainder of his WWE contract to get out of his contract.
Yes, that one I did hear.
Well,
And thank you WWE for robbing Portland, for which the show that Tony and I were at, from Drew McIntyre. Yes, they said he has an illness, but is that just a cover story for them saying, well, he doesn't want to be on the show? Because he was supposed to be on the show last night.
and he was actually supposed to be at a signing last night or yesterday from 9 to 11 in Oregon City that they pulled him from and put the Intercontinental Champion Gunther in his place.
Yes, and to be clear, because I don't want to get chopped by Gunther, although he could chop my co-host, that wouldn't bother me too much. Except for he probably knocked the curly hair off of Pat's head. But Gunther is no Drew McIntyre, so I feel bad for anybody that went to that comic book shop or whatever it was.
It was a Cricket Wireless store, Nos. Get your facts
Cricket
right.
Wireless comic book store, tomato.
One's a comic book store, one sells cell phones, not tomato.
Yes, it is. They're still stores.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone realized, but Monday night, Bailey was written off of the show too.
Yes, but I heard she's still in negotiations with WWE, unlike Drew McIntyre, which every dog must have a bone, so I'll give Tony that one. And say he was right about McIntyre sitting out the whole show. Or his whole contract, I mean.
I wouldn't put it past McIntyre one bit. He's a very talented wrestler, and
Well, here's the other little intriguing portion of this. Drew McIntyre's WWE contract would run out in July.
Right.
What is
so
the
it's not
next?
like
What is the next major AEW event, and where is it at in August?
it's in Wembley Stadium, and it's all in. Which, can you imagine how much that place would pop if Drew Galloway showed up? Yes, I used his independent name, not his WWE name. Drew Galloway showed up in Wembley Stadium.
you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he signs with AEW because I, like Dakota's saying, he could be a champion easily there.
Oh yeah. In fact, I think he would be right up to in the top title picture right away.
Oh yeah, I could see him taking it from MJF in a heartbeat.
Oh, can you imagine the promo battles from him and MJF? Like MJF coming out in the kilt, making fun of the Scottish heritage of Drew McIntyre.
I could see a real good long length battle between the two.
So moving on,
Up.
the next thing I heard was Sabu was hospitalized today in Indianapolis.
Oh, that does make me kind of sad. I've always been a big fan of Sabu. Did it say what he was?
I guess he was at a Comic-Con and he had some sort of a medical condition on the floor, and they canceled his appearance and rushed him to a local hospital.
Ouch. To be fair, and I'm not making light of this at all. This isn't me playing my gimmick or whatever. But if you put your body through as much as what Sabu has put his body through, it's gonna take its toll eventually.
Especially when he super glues the wound shut himself.
Yeah, you don't know, what particulates were left in his body that hadn't really popped up since till now.
So moving on. Okay. Oh, go ahead. I can't see your lips moving down there, Mr. Host. It's really hard to see your lips moving when all I can see is your ceiling.
I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard to do this without. One of the regrets I have about the Inside the Pit podcast that I did before, internet radio show, was that we were this close to interviewing Sabu until that 16-year-old who Tony has lapped so many times over his head spinning. We were this close to interviewing Sabu, and then he wanted to take a 6-month break.
So, let me take a stab at this 16-year-old kid. Corey, I believe that's your name, son.
Yes.
You let the brilliant Mr. Nathan Noss go. And now, not only did you let him go, he is now booked solid for the next 2 months of doing nothing but interviews of wrestlers, promoters, and referees. That's right. And we have no way of stopping. Oh, no. Nathan loves this. This is his dream. I'm making this happen for him. So shame on you for wanting to be a little 16-year-old kid that thought he knew it all and dropped a perfectly good podcast and lost all those viewers. So I'm hoping all those viewers actually find Nathan again and come and join his new podcast.
Amen to that. And I will say this. His character name was the Pacific Coast player, JT Evans. Brother, you could not play your way out of a brown paper bag or yourself in your room living with your mom. So you need to either change your name or get out of the business altogether.
Speaking of those interviews, hey Nathan, why don't we run through those little interviews for Mr. Corey?
Sounds good.
We've got Mr. Bruce Wayne on the 10th. Nathan, what have you found out about Mr. Bruce?
Well, Mr. Bruce Wayne is from Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling, one of the premier wrestling promotions in Colorado. He's also so I can fix this a little bit. There we go. He's also a former sparring partner of Bobby Lashley. He also played in the Arena Football League, so he's multifaceted. He's also a manager. And you told me this part, Tony. I believe he's the four quarters champion. Am I saying that right?
I believe so, yes.
And I watched a podcast with him this afternoon, and he is incredibly entertaining. He reminds me of like D'Lo Brown meets The Rock, or let's put it this way, and I hope he finds this entertaining because I mean it to be. He reminds me of what would happen if like The Rock and D'Lo Brown had a baby. With a little bit of Chris Jericho because he used a fireball in one of his matches. So.
Literally, was he a wizard?
I don't know. The jury's still out.
On Tuesday night, the 11th, we have the Necro King.
The Necro King is an up-and-coming Lucha Libre star, which thank goodness he speaks English because I don't speak a word of Spanish. So that would have been a very interesting interview if he didn't. Not only would I have had to do research, but I would have had to take a crash course in Spanish. And I can barely speak English sometimes, so that would have been interesting.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Mr. Talking trash to me on the way home last night.
Who, me? Oh, never.
Oh, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So, up-and-coming star. I believe he's about ready to start his own promotion also. Or at least training school. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The From the Chair podcast is getting on one of the first interviews with him as he's preparing to open his new training school.
Now, another interview that we are excited about on Wednesday evening, I'm sorry. The Golden Mike.
That's my experience from back in India.
Mr. Mike
All right.
Martinez.
Yes, we are very. I think you did some research on that guy. Do you want to fill us in, Tony?
I guess Nathan's not there.
No, I'm
Are
here.
you there, Nathan?
I'm here.
I lost audio.
You can hear me, right, Pat?
I can hear you, Nathan.
I totally lost audio.
Okay, so
There we go.
all right. So Tony, I think you did some research on Mr. Martinez that you told me a lot about. So, being the gracious host that I am, I will pass that one off to you.
Mr. Martinez, we actually had a nice 45-minute to an hour phone call with. He is the greatest guy. He is very vast in wrestling knowledge, and in fact, he has actually given us a few other of his wrestlers to interview.
Yes.
So that should be a pretty good. And plus, he is, as the name says, the Golden Mike. He is the ring announcer extraordinaire for Dollar Pro Wrestling.
Which means he can put you in your place on the podcast, right?
He can try.
No, he will.
Nah, he can try.
He will.
Because
See-
as
You
Mr.
see
Nosh, as Mr. Nosh should realize, the executive producer is the one that has all the stroke around here.
You see that little fleckles of gray hair that's in your beard? Miss.
I'm sorry, the hostess seemed to have audio problems. Moving on to the 13th. Mr. Gino, I told you so, Rivera. Oh, Mr. Rivera, you and I have been going back and forth on socials for weeks now. In just a mere 5 days, you'll be sitting down on our podcast.
Yes, that I'm very excited about. But I do have one question for you, Mr. Greatest executive producer ever. You keep saying you're going to tell Mr. I told you so something, but you don't tell us what you're going to tell him.
I'm going to tell him exactly what the host of this show thinks about him.
That he's a fantastic wrestler that could win any title he can think of.
Now you're talking out your butt again, Nos.
I can't. It's flattened out so much I don't use it anymore.
You keep telling me that he's a cheap version of a Roman Reigns wannabe.
I did not say that.
Yes, you did.
Sorry,
I've got,
might be your
I've got
might
it
be
on.
your-
I've got video proof on our podcast that you said that.
might be your old age there, sir. You get a little forgetful.
So, Mr. I told you so. As I was saying, Mr. Noss thinks that you are a washed-up has-been and couldn't even strap on Roman Reigns' jockstrap. That's right. Our host thinks that you are a loser as much as he was a loser at WrestleMania.
Hey, I broke even at WrestleMania. I still consider that a win, even though I have to wear a dress.
Hey, can anybody hear the host? No? Okay. That's good.
Can you guys hear me? I can hear myself, and that's all that matters.
Well, yeah, of course it's all that matters to the host because he likes to hear himself talk.
Well, of course. I always give myself the right answer.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Who's they? It's okay,
The,
Tony. Do we?
The two blondes I seen walking out your room here just about 10 minutes ago, saying that as they were laughing, as they said that was the smallest thing we've ever seen.
Well, they must not have been talking about me then.
They specifically said they were in. They specifically said they were in your room.
Yeah, they must pick the wrong room.
Moving on to the 14th, and Mr. Sean O'Reilly from SXPW.
Now, this one I'm really excited about because being a big ECW fan, as I am, not going to say was because I still am, I'm excited to see how maybe he's adapted some of the ECW styles. And I'm not talking about Joey Styles to his promotion.
And then the host finally gets a break. Maybe it'll be well deserved, maybe it won't be. That's only for me to decide. On the 15th. And then brings us into the next week where he starts out a Sunday interview with from the Chair Confessionals with Mr. Wesley.
This one I'm excited about, and I'm a little jealous of Wesley because he went to a Jericho cruise and I haven't gotten to go yet.
Boo-hoo, how are you going to get there, Nos?
I'll figure out a way. I don't care if I have to combat crawl to the boat.
And then what are you going to do when you're out to sea, Nos? You're on a wheelchair. How are you going to get around?
I'll get one of the manual chairs and I'll get a big rope. And I can just pull myself around the boat.
I see, Mr. Nos. Okay.
Motivation can do wonderful things.
Yes, I guess it can.
I'm not sure I understand.
And Siri agrees. She doesn't sure she understands.
Well, I'm sorry, Suri. I wasn't talking to a phone.
That's right. She doesn't understand why you talk out of turn.
Well, of course she doesn't. I'm too intelligent for a phone.
That's what it said.
I don't deal with clowns. I'm sorry.
Anyways, moving on to the 17th. This is one that I'm actually very proud of, and I actually did a little bit of research on that because Nas says you can't find out anything about referee as well. I just went and searched Facebook, and guess what? I found out a whole bunch of stuff about this next guest we're going to have on the 17th. And, you know, he's a guy after my own heart because he's named the same name as mine. Yeah. And he's a referee, so maybe he can referee the match between Nos and I when we decide to have it.
we had a match, I'd beat you in 5 seconds.
Really?
Yep.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Pat, what do you think? Me and Tony, who would win?
I don't know. I kind of want to say neutral on that one.
Oh, don't take the high road on me now.
He's a smart. He's a smart co-host because he knows how much power the executive producer has.
Yeah, and the co-host has breaking news. I just found out that the Motors Machine Guns won another tag team title by defeating TMDK, Bad Dude Tito, and Shane Haste
What
on
tag titles?
Impact.
That wasn't for the tag titles. That was just a match.
Well, the picture I'm seeing is they're holding titles.
Yeah, they held the titles that they already had.
Ah,
But anyways,
so much for me keeping up with Impact.
on the 17th, Tony Flanagan. He is a referee from, and I bet you Nathan didn't even know this, SXPW. That's right. He's the referee for Sean O'Reilly.
Well, I'm sure he's seen a lot of things, and if that's a hardcore promotion.
And then as of right now, we have the 18th off. The 19th, I believe we changed that one to a 7 o'clock interview on the 19th.
Is that that's Mr. Rocky, yes?
Well, I don't know his last name, but his first name's Rocky, so it's not a Mr. Yes.
And he is from, I believe, Renegade Pro Wrestling.
And I believe you'd be wrong. I believe
Or no,
he's
Battleground Pro
he's
Wrestling.
from Battleground Pro Wrestling, Mr. Noss.
And I've seen some footage on Rocky, and I'm telling you what, this guy is like the size of Gunther, but can move around the ring like Drew McIntyre.
And then the next day is the 20th, and we're not scheduled for an interview.
See, look, the executive producer thinks I'm such big of a star, he can't even put himself on camera. My apologies. What was the 20th?
My apologies for the host's mic problems. On the 20th, we have absolutely no show as of yet. I might actually broker a deal here in the next couple of days, and we might actually have a show. The 21st, I'm very, very proud of because this is this man's very first podcast interview, and he's been in the business for 50 years. And we are his first ever interview. Mr. Noss, what do you think about that? Oh, wait a minute. We're having technical difficulties with Mr. Noss. We can't hear him. Hello, Mr. Noss. Can we hear you now? Hello?
I'm sorry. Maybe Mr. Pat, you can hear me, yes? Just to
Yeah.
make sure I'm not. Okay. So, Mr. Wagner, you might need to get Miracle Ear. You know, I live in a nursing home. I could probably get you a few things. You know, maybe a blood pressure cuff, some Depends. You know.
We lost audio again.
I'm already almost turning you off with my boob.
Oh, and now he's sexually harassing me on the podcast, y'all. Y'all heard that, right?
Hey, you wish I would sexually harass you. It'd be the best thing you ever had.
No, I love my wife. Thank you.
Well, I love your wife too, but not that way.
So anyways, yes, this on the 21st is a very special interview because he's been in the wrestling business for 50 years and has never done a podcast. And he chose us to be his very first podcast of his career.
And in all seriousness, that is such an honor, and thank you so much, Mr. Youngblood. And yes, if you've been in the wrestling business for 50 years, you deserve the title of Mr. Youngblood.
I'm not arguing that. Our next one that we have scheduled on the books is the 23rd. And again, it's a very special interview to myself and Mr. Noss because we grew up watching this man in the WCWC. He is now the manager of probably the best faction on the West Coast. And I won't say in all of wrestling like our host does because the best faction in all of wrestling, there were 3 of them better than Hellbound.
Well, to be fair, if your memory wasn't slipping, you would remember that I didn't say in all of wrestling. I said in all the Northwest.
Yeah, and I bet our sponsor, Big Money Dodge, would have something to say about that too.
You mean the guy that you fictitiously sold my company to?
Your company?
I didn't stutter.
I don't see no paperwork for patents on your desk there, Noss.
I haven't even seen the patents that you got. So I could use that same argument against you.
That's right, because I keep them locked up in a safe where they're for safekeeping.
Yeah. Hey, Shane, how are you tonight?
He's probably better than you. He went to a Mariners game, Noss, and you didn't have to wear a dress.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to make that damn thing look good.
Now, if I remember correctly, WCCW is World Class Championship Wrestling, where he was from.
World Class West Coast Wrestling Connection.
Before he was in the West Coast.
I'm not sure. The only one that Tony and I watched him in was the West Coast Wrestling Connection, ran by the Grappler. The original Grappler, to be exact.
So, moving on, we have an interview on the 24th, and this is a brand new interview that we just brokered actually today. And his name is Malcolm Plex, and I believe he's out of Arizona. We will have to get back to you on some details with him later.
Yeah.
The next one is the 27th, again with a new wrestler. I believe he's out of Colorado, I believe. Damian Knox.
And that should be interesting because from what you've been telling me about him, from the images that you've seen, he has a very interesting character.
Yes. And then on the 29th, we have our very first press conference for Combat Pro Wrestling at 5:30.
Yes. I'm extremely excited about that and would like to thank CPW once again for giving us this opportunity.
And then the next one is at 7 p.m. that same night with our first ever women's Renegade champion, SOS. Newly won championship today, thank you.
Well, congratulations to SOS, and I am very excited again to interview her. She is a no nonsense fighter in the ring. She was in a match with Gypsy Mac, who's another lady that I believe Tony is working on getting. And it was last woman standing match, which for those of you who if you've been following wrestling, you know that they don't have very many of those. They have a lot of men's last man standing matches, but not women's. And it was a great match, back and forth, and until SOS hit Gypsy Mac with a steel chair while her ankle was trapped in another one.
Okay, are you done yapping now? Let's move on.
Well, before we move on, Pat, you've been quiet this podcast. Anything to add?
I'm just looking forward to all these great interviews.
Okay, so moving on before I was so rudely interrupted by our illustrious dress-wearing host.
I'm sorry, I was giving people some...
That gives us to May 1st, to where we have the month of referees. Leading us off on the 1st at 6 p.m. is Chad Rico. Again, we'll get some more information on him as we get closer. The next day, on May 2nd, that's right, May, we have at least 4 interviews a week. So we're going to have a very, very busy month of May.
I think we'll all be the hardest working men in that month.
This dude, Blake Daniels, will be joining us on the 2nd at 7 p.m. And I believe he's also out of one of the promotions.
California.
Oh, is he out of Cali? The next one I am very excited for because she's one of the hottest new professional wrestlers in the United States. She has actually been on AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, I believe.
Yes.
She has wrestled women like Gypsy Mac, SOS, and Pandemonium.
And I believe on AEW she wrestled, I think it was Athena.
I want to think you're right. But we want to thank our new owner of this podcast, Big Money Dodge, for hooking us up with this interview. So on the 3rd of May, we will have the talented Brittany Brooks.
Yes, and again, that is amazing to have somebody of her caliber. But again, I have all the respect in the world for Mr. Dodge, but until I see proof of this sale, it's not happening.
Well, moving forward, we have no interviews on the 4th. On the 5th, our second referee of the month, Mr. Brad Lee. And I believe this is a man that actually kicked Nathan Noss out of a wrestling match at one time.
No, I've never been kicked out of a wrestling match.
That's not what he said.
Okay. Honestly, I've never been kicked out of a wrestling match, but
that's not what he said.
Maybe you just have selective memory.
Maybe he's got, because he was the one that told me.
I'd like to know what this said promotion is, and why he exactly kicked me out of it. Oh wait,
Moving on. The next, okay, so we don't have anything on the 6th. The next night on the 7th, I want my co-host and host to shut the hell up while this man takes the robe off for all the sexy ladies. We've got a second interview. That's right, our very first second interview scheduled with Mr. Randy Rude.
nothing bad I can say about that man. That man in his first interview was awesome. And I'm looking forward to finishing the questions that we had in the first interview that we were unable to finish, and maybe coming up with some new ones, and finding out how his Red Rock Rumble went.
And the very next night, May 8th, I'm hoping this is the winner of the Red Rock Rumble, because I am officially declaring it. That's right, me, not Randy Rude, me. I'm officially declaring May 8th, Pandemonium Day. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Pandemonium Day.
Now, you said you had paperwork for the sale. Do you have paperwork declaring the fact that you can declare that a day?
I don't need the paperwork. It's my podcast, and I'll do what the hell I want to do with it.
Excuse me, it's whose podcast?
You heard me. I didn't stutter.
You just got done saying this was my dream and you were going to help me. That's right, me, not you, but me make this happen.
We must have technical difficulties again. I can't hear you. So we're going to move on to the next night, where we get to interview Mr. Brandon Turner.
Yes.
Anything to say about him, Mr. You think you know everything?
So I do know everything. First of all. And second of all, if I remember right, he's a referee, right?
I don't know. You tell me. He's your guest.
Yes, but you booked him.
Just because I book him doesn't mean I have to know everything about him.
I didn't say you did, but you usually do. Or is it that selective memory again that's causing you to go backwards instead of forwards?
I believe he's a promoter somewhere. I believe.
Well, if so, that's awesome. I always love interviewing promoters.
I mean, I can really dig back in all my messages and really see if you really want me to, but yeah, I don't even know how far. Oh, I gotta go way back.
No, I believe you're right. I believe he's a promoter somewhere. So Pat, while he's looking for that, and with his eyesight, that could take a while. If you were a pro wrestler, what would your finisher be?
Oh, gee, there's so many that I would love to do. Let's see. Which one would...
Okay, that's right. Never mind. He is a manager of one of the teams in the AWA.
Oh, yes. And I do believe we're still trying to get that team, yes?
His team, yeah, and then actually the champions of that team, and it's a team near and dear to my heart because it's one of my favorite movies, The Top Gun.
Yes, that's right.
And Shane, I actually agree with that. The B slap would be my move of choice, so I could B slap the host right out of his bed.
Oh, you wish you could slap me. It'd be the most action you've had in a long time.
But back to Nathan's question, what my finisher would be, I would say this is a finisher that I grew up watching this wrestler do. I would have to say because of his finisher, it kind of is. I kind of like it, and that's the Baron von Raschke claw.
Interesting.
Okay,
Not the
and,
Von Erich claw, the Baron von Raschke claw.
Yes, I know there's a difference.
and we don't have time to listen to the host's his favorite finisher. So moving on.
Well, if I was gonna do a
Moving
finisher,
on.
if I was gonna do a finisher, I would do the elevator from Hammerstone. I would do it. Will you stop muting me?
Moving on. May 10th is Killian Crow from Battleground Pro Wrestling. And moving on to the 11th is the new owner of this podcast, Big Money Dodge. And he's a proud sponsor of this podcast. That's right. So any teams out there or any individuals looking for a great manager, look up Big Money Dodge. You can find him on Facebook, Big Money Dodge.
Instagram. Will you stop muting me?
Moving on to the 12th, we've got an interview that we have an interviewee that I had to finish because the host dropped the ball. So on May 12th, we have Mr. Cam Drexel from Colorado.
Back the trolley truck up here, buddy. I did not drop the ball on anything. I was being.
Moving on to the 15th, we have our next female wrestler, Miss Scarlett, the Queen of Hearts, Rose.
Very excited to interview a luchadora. She has a very unique look.
We also got some records and records so that they also buy on our treatment in different hospitals.
So, and then moving on to the 16th is our next referee. I believe it's Christopher Behamet or Beerans? Beerhans. That's what it is. And that's a very early morning interview, everybody. That'll be a 9 a.m. interview. And Mr.
Yeah.
Knox might run that one solo. It depends on my mood that day if I'm gonna be there or not.
Okay. I can do it solo. I'm a man of many talents.
And I will be on an assignment that morning.
But that's right. Nathan's going to pull double duty because at 6 p.m. that night, he's going to interview the Madman from the Badlands.
That one I'm extremely excited about. This guy is a throwback to like the Blackjack Mulligan days.
And he looks just as vicious.
Yes, he does.
And then on the 18th is another wrestler that we really don't have a whole lot of information on at the moment because it was a newly breaking story, and that is Mr. Javier Cruz. Again, I believe out of Colorado, and one of the great wrestling promotions in the state of Colorado.
Which there are many.
And then on the 23rd of May, we have Steve Dodge, a new up-and-coming promoter in the state of Washington, trying to start his own wrestling school and wrestling company. So he's going to come on an interview about the struggles of starting a new business.
Yes, in the Spokane area. So anybody that's in the Spokane area, that'll be one you want to listen to.
Technically, it's Pullman,
which is close to Spokane, or any students that are at Washington State University, which the campus is in Pullman. And that might be something you want to listen to if you're interested in becoming a pro wrestler.
Yes, we're reading your comment, Shane. And I agree, Nathan needs to stop yelling and let Pat speak.
Hey, I'm not stopping Pat from speaking. He can speak anytime.
And yes, Shane, I will be in contact for a second interview with you. Even if that one is just you and me, bud, because I think it'd be better that way.
I don't know. You'd lose all this sexiness, so I don't know how that would work. After all, I do have the sexiest ears of podcasting.
That's not what our viewers said the night that they seen your dander behind your ear.
Mm-hmm. We all gotta change it up a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. So after Steve Dodge on the 23rd, we have our last referee of the month, Mr. Reggie Cassidy, at 7 p.m. And then we have our second CPW news conference on the 27th of May. And we finish out the month with another very interesting interview that Nathan would love to talk about. And that is Mr. Tyson Lee.
Yes, Tyson Lee is a very talented wrestler from BCW. For those of you who were with us for the Deontay Ford interview, he was one of Deontay's rivals, and Deontay actually cut a promo on him on our podcast. So I do believe there might be a reversal by Mr. Lee.
And then our last CPW media scrum is June 13th, I believe, live from the Strawberry
June
Fest.
17th.
Hopefully it'll be live from the Strawberry Fest. We don't know yet, but we will find out.
We're still working on that. When you're in a wheelchair, transportation is a little challenging.
Going back to that last one that Nathan was saying about the rebuttal, I have no doubt he's going to rebuttal what the King said.
Although it'd be interesting if and then we had the King back on later on, and they kind of keep doing like rebuttals back and forth until they have their next match. Although if they did that, will we get a promoter's credit?
Who knows?
Well, now that the producer's done coughing up a lung, What do you guys think of? I know Pat, you said you haven't gotten caught up on Impact that much lately. But what do you think of this hardcore war they're gonna have at Rebellion?
Well, like I said before, I need to get caught up on Impact. I don't know who's in it.
Well, for our viewers who don't know, the hardcore war is just like a Survivor Series match, but with weapons. Kind of like the unsanctioned match they had at No Way Out 1998. And I think on Bully Ray's side, it's gonna be so far on his side because it's Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer are the two coaches. So on Bully Ray's side, it's Bully Ray, the Good Hands, which is John Schuyler and Jason Hotch. And I believe the GCW heavyweight champion, which is Masha Slamovich. And I don't think Bully Ray has a fifth yet. On team, oh yes, he does. It's Kenny King. And then on Tommy Dreamer's side, it's Tommy Dreamer, Yamura, Frankie Kazarian, and I believe he's looking for one more, and he's trying to get Scott D'Amore. That's right, the president of Impact Wrestling, to join his team.
That's amazing. That's something that
Thoughts?
we've done so much.
I would have gone with someone other than Scott D'Amore. Because I don't know if he can still wrestle.
I don't know. The other day, he did a really good Canadian Destroyer. Tony, your thoughts?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just waking up from the Boar Fest.
It's either that or your old age is catching up to you. You know, when you get to a certain age, you have to nap a lot.
No, it was the Boar Fest of our long-winded host.
I was educating people on the match in case they didn't watch Impact. Thank you very much.
Okay, well. Scott D'Amore, if he could still go, would be one hell of a choice. But I really wish that Scott D'Amore would come and Canadian destroy your ass.
Again, he can't Canadian destroy my ass. My ass is too flat. I've sat on it too much. I'm thinking about renting it out as a credit card reader. And no, you don't want to know where you don't want to know where the receipts would come out.
Just think of all those declined charges that people would get because they couldn't find. Never mind, I won't go there. Even I've got some class and won't burn you that bad.
No, you can't. Go ahead, bring it on. I ain't scared.
Nah, it's not worth my time.
So, AEW, I'm really excited about them going to Wembley. I know we touched on that a little bit. I keep hearing people wondering if they're gonna sell out Wembley Stadium. And to me, they will sell at Wembley Stadium in a heartbeat. Why? Because Tony Khan has a soccer team in London. 2, AEW is a lot more popular than WWE. So I mean, they could put on like, not like a Dynamite even, and they would, sell out. No. They would sell out Wembley Stadium.
And there's another factor in that might happen if he does do this and sit at home and let his contract expire, and that is Drew.
Yeah, but the thing, like we said at the beginning, if Drew comes out there, that's a given, because if he comes out in London, that place is gonna. If I remember right, Wembley Stadium is an open air stadium, so at least they wouldn't have to worry about the roof blowing off.
This is true.
So
Yeah.
let's talk.
And
Go
we
ahead.
have new IWGP Tag Team Champions too.
Okay, so first of all, did you ever find out who beat Okada?
No, I'm still looking for that one.
Okay, who are the new IWGP Tag Team Champions? If I remember right, the last ones were the Great Khan and Jeff Cobb.
Um,
I got the new IWGP champion right here.
Well,
okay,
so
so
does
Ozzy
Tony.
opens the new tag champions.
Okay. I can see that. They're a very talented team.
And
And
let's see if actually Pat's right on one.
Nada.
Yep, you're right.
What?
Sonata or
Yeah, you pronounced it right, Tony.
Sonata's the new heavyweight champion?
Yep.
Wow. For those who don't remember, Sonata was in Impact Wrestling. That must have been a great match between him and Okada.
That would have been a match I would have loved to have sat and watched all the way through.
Yeah. So I know Tony was big on this event, so I want to get his opinion on this, but what do you guys think on the draft being in 3 weeks from Jacksonville, Florida, which is the home of AEW?
I don't have an opinion on WWE no more.
Pat, what do you think?
I just hope something good happens in the draft.
So we know they're probably going to do their NXT call-ups at the draft, even though I agree with Tony that they should have done them on either Raw or SmackDown. Besides the ones that we've already talked about, Braun Breaker, finally debuting maybe Cameron Grimes. Is there anybody else you guys think might be called up?
The only other one I could see being called up is going to be Roxanne Perez. And I actually did a little research on her, and she She actually made her debut in AEW.
Yes. But then she got her most experience and most success in Ring of Honor.
Yep.
Prior to coming to WWE. But yeah, we're really excited for all these interviews, and in all seriousness, as much as I give him a hard time on here and he gives it right back, Tony, thank you so much for helping me book all these amazing talents.
Or are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, can you say that again?
I said, as much as I give you a hard time on here and you give it right back, thank you so much for helping me book these amazing talents. And I'm sure there's more to come.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. He thanked me not once but twice because he knows I'm better than him and he knows it.
Well, just because your personal hero is MJF.
I didn't say anything about that piece of garbage being my personal hero.
I don't know. You like to use this catchphrase all the time.
Just because I like to use this catchphrase doesn't mean that he's my personal hero. You know, I mean, let's talk about a real personal hero, you know, with a man who doesn't even sign autographs or charges like $5,000 an autograph for a cripple. You know, let's talk about Hulk Hogan.
Well, first of all, it wasn't 500, or 5,000, but I get your point. And the one thing you can't take away from Hogan, though, unlike MJF, is the mark he's left on the business.
You're absolutely right. So let's get your thoughts on this, Nathan. We all thought when Brian Cage won the trios titles with the Embassy at Supercard of Honor, he had actually re-signed with AEW.
Right.
However, if you believe your favorite publication, the Dirt Sheets, which I don't know how much I should believe or not, so that's why I'm going to throw the question over to you. They say that indeed Mr. Cage is working without a contract as both parties continue to negotiate. AEW and WWE have both offered him a long-term and a short-term contract.
Well, okay, so first of all, which Dirt Sheet publication is this?
The Dirt Sheets. It's on. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, it's on
Second of all, I would say that he's gonna stay with AEW for a little bit, because if you watched Rampage last night, apparently there's been a merger between Swerve Strickland Moguls and the Embassy, because Brian Cage took out Darby Allin after Swerve Strickland got Darby Allin to come up to the stage. And I don't think Tony Khan would do something like that and introduce something like that without him having some assurances that he was going to stick around for a while. Maybe not sign a long-term contract, but at least stick around to finish that story. Because otherwise, why would he start that? Pat, your thoughts?
I was just reading something on Brian Cage at the moment. I, yeah, I have. All I can say is I would love to see him in WWE,
Look at Hades.
but there's one man that needs to be out of control of WWE before he goes.
Well, I don't know, because if you're talking about Vince McMahon, Brian Cage fits the type of wrestler that Vince McMahon has always liked.
True, but I could also see Lesnar going out, Cage coming in, and being the next Lesnar.
But is Lesnar actually going out? Because it's been reported on said dirt sheets that Lesnar will be taking on Cody Rhodes at Backlash.
I believe that's the case too. Cody's going to get revenge on Brock. Brock's going to leave for a while and go back to the UFC.
Well, here's my point. And I was talking to a friend of the podcast this afternoon named Ronnie. And he said, and we were talking about this, and I agree with this, that would it be something if the only reason that Cody attacked, or that Brock attacked Cody, was to soften Cody up for when Cody wins the heavyweight title, so that Brock has an easier chance of beating Cody first.
That is a good, valid explanation of why Brock attacked Cody.
Now, the dirt sheets are saying that the reason that Brock attacked Cody is because Brock got upset that Brock's match at WrestleMania was on first and Cody's was on last. But personally, I like Ronnie's explanation a little bit better, because if you go with the dirt sheets version, Brock just seems kind of petty. You know, and it makes him kind of lose that vicious, like, beast type character.
However, I just thought of this, and I hope it happens. We could see Brian Cage make his debut at Backlash and assist Cody Rhodes in defeating Brock Lesnar.
Yes, but again, why would Tony Khan start a program with the Embassy and Swerve Moguls and have Brian Cage involved unless he didn't have any insurance that Brian Cage would be there?
That's true. So, moving on to the next topic, and this is quite interesting. We all know that Kevin Owens' son's going to follow, or I'm sorry, Kevin Steen's son's going to follow him into wrestling.
Right, whose name is Owen, by the way.
It's Owens.
Yes, really cool name.
So now when they debut him, would they debut him as Owens, or would they call him Steen Owens?
Personally, I'd like to see him be called Steen Owens. I think that would be pretty cool.
If that happens, oh my God! Think of the tag team match of the century of all. The Owens versus the Mysterios.
Well, I mean, that would have to go a ways out, because I think it's going to be a while before we see the Owens team together, because I don't think Owens is either anywhere close to being old enough yet.
SummerSlam is it August, Nate, or July?
August.
It's August and it's in the Motor City.
Yes. And it's funny because you said you might boycott WWE with the whole Vince McMahon thing. For the viewers of this podcast, you guys know how much I watch Ango, who actually lives in the Motor City of Detroit, who has probably never missed the big show in that city. But he said if WWE keeps going the way that it goes, he is not going to SummerSlam.
And it's the biggest party of the year.
Yes, and it's in his hometown, so you know it's got to be getting mad if somebody that's a podcaster has the biggest party of the year in his hometown, and he's even considering not going.
And you know, even this podcast yesterday started boycotting WWE very loudly while still in the Moda Center.
Yes, I know. In fact, like you were saying it so loud, you had people looking at you going, you realize you're at a WWE show, right?
Do you think I cared?
No, I don't.
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. So I want to get your opinion on this. Again, I was talking to Ronnie earlier today.
Uh-huh.
And he brought up a good point. You remember the entrance with Dominic Mysterio for WrestleMania?
Oh, are we going back to this again?
Yes, because I think it's a good point. So, when the hell did Dominic get rearrested?
He never did. That's what makes it a great entrance.
But how's that a great entrance? Because if he didn't get arrested, then how's he back in jail?
Because he's Dominic Mysterio and he's the son of Mr. 619 and he can do anything he wants.
Well, that's true. He's the son of Rey Mysterio, but I think the one thing he's been known for the most recently is getting booed out of the building in Portland.
That was the loudest boo that I actually think I heard last night.
Yes. I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it took about, 10 minutes for him to even get a word out?
Maybe not that long, but yeah, pretty close.
In contrast, his mommy got one of the biggest cheers of the night outside of Triple H.
So do you think Buddy Matthews is going to take the title from Orange?
In all fairness, I hope so.
But Nosh, you're not a heel. You can't like heels.
I can like whoever I want, first of all. Second of all, I think I love Orange Cassidy, right? But I think the House of Black is going to take over AEW for a while. Right? I mean, they're already the trios champions. Plus, we know that Buddy Matthews is a heavyweight champion. Oops, sorry, I accidentally hit that. We already know Buddy Matthews is a champion in another indie promotion, so maybe he's gonna be like another belt collector.
Oh, please. There's only one belt collector in all of professional wrestling, and we know that's Kenny by God Omega. Mr. I Told You So can't even collect as many belts as Mr. Omega. Even though he has all the belts that he has now, Kenny Omega will still be the only belt collector ever in professional wrestling.
I don't know. Mr. I Told You So is an up and comer. And actually, he likes to be called the treasure troll. Thank you.
And that's what I was saying. He will never be as good as Kenny by God Omega because he wants to be considered a troll and not a champion.
Hey, he knows who he is and he's good with it. And obviously, he's very successful at it. I mean, my God, man, the guy just wrestled AEW's Phoenix, for God's sakes.
However, I think the House of Black would be in a fight of the century with the Combat Club.
Yes, and the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if they do actually go after the trios titles.
But, you know, here's another little intriguing little tidbit. And it all has to revolve around somebody's contract expiring in July. Wouldn't it be interesting if during Stadium Stampede in Wembley, a certain person joins the
BCC?
Joins the BCC?
And I know who you're talking about, Tony.
Wouldn't that be surprising? He goes and helps the BCC in London?
I would love to see McIntyre or
But
Gallows.
then again, would that work if the BCC is heels? Because you know, if Galloway, because he wouldn't be McIntyre then.
No, you're right. He would be Galloway.
If Galloway showed up to help them, they would get cheered.
Okay. But we all know that people cheer heels just to cheer heels. And we all know people do the same thing for faces because we as wrestling fans deserve to cheer who we want to fucking cheer. So why bother? You know, yeah, that'd be a big freaking pop.
Yes, but do you think, okay, here's a follow-up to that. Do you think Jon Moxley and Drew Galloway could coexist?
Yes. I
Yes.
think they can.
Because if Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson can coexist, so could Moxley and Galloway.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. You're right, though. That would be very interesting. Who do you think of the four pillars is going to be, if anybody, is going to be MJF at Double or Nothing?
MJF is holding that title until January 2024 when he turns coat and does a Cody Rhodes and goes and has his first feud in WWE. In fact, I could probably even tell you his first feud in WWE.
Okay, who are you thinking?
It's a man that we haven't brought up on this podcast yet tonight. I'm really kind of disappointed we haven't. The Pez dispenser. The Piz.
You're going to make me do it, aren't you?
What's that?
You're going to make me put over the MJF, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that. I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to do, but, you know,
you're going to make me do it.
It's the Pez dispenser versus the pompous ass who thinks he's going to get millions and millions of dollars more of Vince McMahon's, well, not even Vince McMahon's money now. Now it's Endeavor's money. When Endeavor is going to tie all their money up to their champion, the tribal chief, the one who needs to be acknowledged, Roman Reigns.
Acknowledged?
Acknowledged.
I'll get to that the Endeavor thing in a second, but the Pez dispenser couldn't even hold a candle to MJF in the ring.
You actually did it. You put the piece of trash over the Pez dispenser.
I have to. It's the truth. MJF's the better wrestler. He has his own moves, unlike the Pez dispenser, who had to steal his moves from everybody else, i.e., the figure four from Ric Flair.
Actually, I had to disagree with you on that one, Nathan. Ric Flair is the one that told him to go ahead and use that move.
Yes, but he still took it. And if you're not going to live up to the standards of Ric Flair,
You need to quit using it.
yeah. And I'm sorry, but the Pez dispenser is not up to the level of Ric Flair, not even close.
But yes, he did steal Bryanson's kicks.
Yes,
And
he's
And Mr.
he also-
Mazinin or Mr. Mike, sir, I regretfully apologize for calling you the Pez dispenser, unlike our host. So if you want to go and personally give him your finishing move, I would personally love to meet you and take you down to see him.
Oh please, the Pez dispenser doesn't have the tiny balls to come in here and give me anything.
No, I actually don't see him coming down. I see his wife coming.
Well, she does hold his balls in her purse, so I mean that's. Of course, then they're like grape nuts. If anybody's had that story, so I mean that cereal. Now let's talk about the Endeavor thing. I don't even think Endeavor's going to keep Roman Reigns, because if you follow the track record of what Endeavor's done with the UFC and their top fighters, they're not known to go out and spend the big money to keep people.
Well, I can see Roman Reigns leaving for Hollywood, actually.
I don't know if he would. I mean, he might go to Hollywood for a while, but could you imagine, like in the distant future, Roman Reigns under a different name showing up in AEW?
I could even see him ending up in New Japan.
Well, that's true. He has a style that the Japanese culture would love. The only question I have is what ring name would Roman Reigns go under if he was
Joey Noel, his real name?
It's a fair point.
Of course, it is.
Lucy, a 5-year-old hedgehog, arrives at Raps.
Would you looky, there are 3 more people wanting to do autograph or wanting to do interviews.
Honestly, we weren't really people before that, and she's just a perfect fit.
Well, Tony's booking more people for the show. Yes, live on the show. So that's something that's never happened on a podcast. We're breaking new ground. So Pat, I have a gimmick match they should have.
I'm listening.
Oh Lord, the host and his
They
damn
should-
gimmick matches.
They should
God
put
help
Vince,
us.
they should put Vince McMahon up against Triple H.
Not like we haven't heard this before.
No,
With the
Not like we have-
stipulation,
we've already done that.
Not like we haven't heard this before. Boring.
okay, then I'll stop. Not.
If you were going to do something like that, Nathan, I would say Vince McMahon versus, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the Fizz.
God damn it, you're gonna make me do it again, aren't you? You're gonna make me do it. I still would have to put the Pez dispenser over Vince McMahon. Of course, the tagline for that match would be "Who has the smaller balls, Vince McMahon or the Pez dispenser?"
Here, I'll give you one better. Because that's just how I roll. Vince McMahon versus Court Bauer.
Right.
The winner gets the exclusive rights to the Anole family.
Ooh, I like that one.
Whew, that would be a sweet one, Tony.
And you have Alpha and Sika as the special enforcers.
Can't say anything negative about them. Their family's awesome, so. Oops.
Oh, listen to you kissing ass now.
Damn figure, you want to click that off, please?
Weren't you the one that was just dogging Roman?
No, I said, could you see him leaving? I didn't say anything negative against Roman.
Unlike last night when I got to leave for 2 matches and meet the tribal chief himself in his locker room.
So you say. I still have seen no proof of that.
And you never will.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
Because I'm the hardest working man on this podcast, and I got to go down and meet the tribal chief.
Oh, please, you were probably on a bathroom break.
Why would I leave?
You were probably on a bathroom break and thought you saw Roman Reigns' reflection in your urine in the urinal.
Yeah, well, at least I wasn't stupid enough to confess my ever-dying love in a marriage proposal to Liv Morgan.
Hey, that was a valid marriage proposal. So, Liv, if you're watching, I'm a lot better than Bo Dallas. Thank you very much.
She doesn't believe you. Believe you.
But come on now. You know Liv and I would make a good couple.
I don't believe you.
Pat, you're the tiebreaker.
Again, another one I'm saying neutral on, Nathan.
Nope, not an option.
Oh, okay, I'll do one better than both of you. I'll just get in contact with Mark Henry and ask him if he wants to do that workout that we talked about.
How is that going to help me get married to Liv Morgan?
I don't know.
It's a valid answer. It's a valid answer.
Let me understand this.
I accept that answer.
Tony sees Roman Reigns in his urine. I want to marry Liv Morgan. And Pat wants to sweat with a fat man that can lift a bunch of weight and probably break him in half. This is a strange podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
A podcast that the host has lost control over.
No, I have control.
Do you?
Yes.
No, he doesn't. He just thinks he does.
I do kind of like that though, Shane. But I don't want to overstep my bounds with the exec and the host.
Okay, the host is out of timeout now.
I'm never in time. You can't put me in timeout.
But no, you're right, Nathan. This is a strange podcast tonight.
This is what happens.
He's still talking.
You know that his fingers start to.
All
shake.
right,
He gets a little-
ladies and gentlemen, this is it for the podcast this evening. Thank you for listening to Live from the Chair, where inclusion matters. And please help control the pet population. Please have your host and co-host spaded and neutered.